supply chain management that they have just been announced last week, and they are right now already on public preview. During this tech talk, we will be presenting what is there, what is the timeline, and what we are planning on doing. And then at the end, we will leave some time for Q&A. On the Q&A side, our colleagues Abhishek, who is the engineering manager for the demand planning application, as well as Mustafa, which is a software engineer, as well on the demand planning app, they will be answering your questions during this tech talk. And then we will be presenting myself and Beatrice, the product manager on the Dynamics Supply Chain Management Group, working with the demand planning app, and my colleague Errol, that I'll pass it to him to introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Errol Celebic. I'm Senior Fast Track Solution Architect working in the supply chain area. Today in our tech talk, we are going to introduce to you the demand planning features and functionalities. We will walk you and showcase to you a 5-step flow that we think will best fit any demand planning process. And as Beatrice mentioned, we will tell you about roadmap and resources which you can already use today for the demand planning app itself.
So just to center ourselves on what are we going to talk about today. On the whole context of the supply chain, all the operations we have, design, planning, procurement, we are in the planning phase, in the demand planning specifically, in knowing out of our whole supply chain, forecasting what is going to be the demand for our products all across our supply chain at any different level. More specifically, in the next slide, we see all data that we have, all our historical data from our products that is in the system in F&O, if you're using F&O. If you have it somewhere else, into Azure Data Lake, into some CSV files, you don't need to be an F&O customer to be benefiting and using demand planning app. Or if you're migrating, you can have all the data somewhere else. You can have all that historical data and then use it as the base of your forecast. That is going to be your input, that historical data of your products themselves, your sites, your warehouses. That data is what you're going to use it as a base for next forecast. Out of that, you can do outlier smoothing, complete missing data, do adjustments, do transformations, then actually create the forecast itself. And once you have the forecast, do that review of the data, seeing how it fits, how it was with the historical data, compare with your sales colleagues, your product owner colleagues, and do that work, that collaboration. You'll see that the application is very focused on this part here. And finally, once you have that demand forecast, it is that forecast that then you can use in your supply chain to make sure you have all that needed components, supply ready for you to perform your business operations. If you have supply chain management, it's that output, like that item forecast that is then passed to dynamic supply chain management. That will be part of the net requirements of the item. And then you'll have master planning, creating that supply, those planned purchases, transfers, Kanban, production orders for them. And again, you execute on those, the daily operations, you firm the orders, you fulfill them, you produce, and then that is what, again, is the daily operations. What happens are the actual sales, and then on a whole cycle, you then can next month or next year or next week, depending on how frequent the operations are for you, then you can import that actual historical again into demand planning, and then have that ongoing cycle of planning for the future, then having that forecast, do the actual planning of the supply, execute on it, have the daily operations of producing, selling, and then on a continuous basis, filling that cycle. So which features does demand planning actually have? Right here is the welcome screen of the demand planning app, what you will see if you install the app. It's on public preview, you can try it yourselves. This is already there, and this is what you will see on the welcome screen. You have different videos that will show you high level what the app is, those videos right there. And on the bottom part, you see that process that I just briefly talked upon. Importing the data into the application. We are always talking on that application context, then creating those transformations, then the forecast, review and adjust and export data. All our documentation, all our processes, you're going to see that they're based on this. And today we will also be talking on each of the points here. The first one is importing the data. Importing the data is all that data that you need in the demand planning app so you can do forecasts. Out of the box, there are different data providers. You can use CSV, Excel, Azure Data Lake Storage, or if you have finance and operations apps, we have a connector that is out of the box already. It's important to note for finance and operations that you can have different environments. You can have different instances around the world, and then you can connect all of them to your demand planning app. This means that you can plan all across your instances just in one app. And then once you have done that forecast, you can then go into the different instances and decide to export the forecasts you need to each of them. Going more deep into the specific Power Query providers that we have, this is just what you will see there. We have Excel, we have Custo, we have also many others, SharePoint list and Oracle database, anything there. You just have to get your data from wherever it is. And again, on the next slide, as I just repeated, I really want to insist on this. What you import is from wherever you have it, your sales history, that is going to be the base, as well as any other data you have, products, warehouses, sites, legal entities, but also any data entity you want. There's going to be different out-of-the-box system entities, but you can import your own as well. Then you import that into the demand planning app, and then you can export. That result is actually the item demand forecast. That is the forecast for your specific product. So now we are going to see how to import data, a short video about it. This is one of the videos that you will see in the app, actually.
In this video, we will demonstrate the straightforward process and the remarkable flexibility with which you can import data into the demand planning app, enabling its use in forecasting and analysis. The demand planning app accommodates data inputs from various external sources such as Excel, Azure Data Lake, Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management, and other third-party systems. This allows users with multiple Dynamics instances, legacy ERPs, or data from different origins to seamlessly integrate data from all these sources into a unified input for forecasting purposes. Setting up Dynamics 365 is simple using the native connector in the app. Once you have provided the connection details, the connector automatically selects the core data entities that are used in demand planning. You can deselect any unneeded entities or quickly add other standard or custom entities. You can review the data mapping for any entity and change as needed, for example, including any custom fields you have added in the data entity. After configuring your import connector, you can initiate the import jobs with a simple button, click, and monitor their status and progress. Once the jobs are finished, you can directly assess the imported data's outcomes or access it through the Data and Tables section for a comprehensive view. In the demonstration, you've observed how planners, within the Demand Planning app for Dynamics 365 Supply Chain Management, can swiftly establish connections with various data sources to produce consolidated forecasts and other time series data.
So this was to give you an idea of what the different import possibilities are. And specifically, something very particular is that if you have any custom fields on any data entities or any custom data entities, you can actually directly import them into the demand planning app. So here I pass it to Ariel that is going to show us how to do that.
Thank you, Beatrice. So let me walk you through a simplified scenario that I'm having here. So here we will have a look at the demand planning app, which Beatrice has just shown you in a screenshot, the home screen. Here I have a table called sales representative. where I have imported the data about the sales rep, which are consisting of basic columns like first name, last name, phone number, email, and so on. But then after importing, I realized I was missing one very important column, which is the sales region where they are working for. So now I want to correct this error and show you how easy it is to extend any table in this app to accommodate your need. Therefore, I'm in the tables, select the table sales representative in the columns tab. I will click on the new column where I will give a column name, sales region. Then I can select the data type that I want to have. In my case, it's still string, and save it. Now I will go to the import tab where we will have all our import providers, import profiles. In the video, you have seen how the data is imported from F&O environment. Now I will walk you through the topics if we want to extend an import through CSV file. So I will select it, go to configure provider, and for anyone who is familiar with Power Query, the following screen should be familiar. So here I have my transformation steps, how to get to the data, and here I have the column that I have forgotten. So I would go to the mappings itself, see that sales region is not mapped. I could either select the columns that I want to map from the source file, or I can even use the auto mapping feature, which will map it directly. Click OK, create, and the system will be ready. Now I can run this import job so that I get the table from CSV into my system. So until the job is ready, so now job is created and will be executed until we see the result. Let me continue and talk to you about the next topic. So as soon as we have imported our data, the next step in our flow, 5-step flow, will be to transform the data. So what does it mean, transform the data? So the data that you are having in historical table is seen as a raw data, which can be either sales table or any shipments table or something, which we are having data in the past, and now if we want to see it in the future, we want to have it as a time series in predefined buckets. The buckets that we are having in the tool to select are daily, weekly, or monthly buckets, so that if we have historical data where we have multiple shipments in one day or multiple shipments during a week, that we can combine them and have a single simplified view on the data for the future. But when we take the historical table, like the transactional table, like historical demand, then we typically have in this table only the dimensions on the lowest level, like product ID and customer ID. But if we are doing our analysis on the forecast, then we usually want to aggregate on levels like product group, product family, customer group, customer country, maybe legal entity, and so on. And usually these columns are not part of the historical demand table or any historical table that we are importing. Therefore, we have made available a possibility to combine or to connect a historical table with multiple master tables for different dimensions. For example, in the product table, we can define the hierarchy for products, product groups, product family, and so on. And the same for customers or legal entities or whatever we want to group. And then when we transform the data, we can also define the precision that we want to do, being it the decimal value that we want to see, or if we want to multiply it by something so that we don't see a single pieces each, but we see it in thousands or in millions bucket, because it is easier for our planning to work with. So let me then showcase you the transformation possibilities that we are having in the tool. Before I start that, let me just check the job. So the job is finished, so it's relatively fast. If I go now, jump to the table sales representative, to the data tab, then I can see that I'm now lucky that the sales region is here and I can continue working. So coming back to my historical demand table, where I was mentioning that I will only have columns like product ID, but nothing more. If I want to have further dimensions, then it will be probably in the table like products, where I have my product family, product group, and so on. So if I want to combine this table, I would go to my historical demand or any transactional table, go to the relationship tab, and then define all the relations that I want to have with other tables. In the case of the products, it will be that I want to connect historical demand table with the table products by utilizing the columns product ID. So let's click on the transformation tab, create a new transformation. This is a one-time setup that I'm only executing afterwards, but I will nevertheless show you the wizard, easy wizard for creation. So this one will be my historical demand weekly bucket that I want to create. Here I can select where do I want to see the resulting time series, in which category should it land. The categories are predefined here. In my case, since it is historical demand, I will put it to the demand category. I will select, in this case, the weekly bucket, and the precision, as said, can be decimal or multiplier of something. I will leave it by 1. On the next wizard step, I am now able to define what do I want to take from data from my table historical demand. Here you see 3 tabs. On the left side, you will see the main table that I have selected above, in this case historical demand, with all the related tables which are defined in the relation tab. In the case, for example, that I showed you is product tab. In the middle section, you will see the columns from the selected table. So now this is the historical demand columns. Here now these are the products table columns. And on the right side are the selection that I am doing that I want to use for my transformation itself. So in this case, for historical demand, from the historical demand, I will take the delivery date because this is my timestamp. I will take the quantity as a measure, and looking at the dimensions, I can take the product ID, and then I will jump to the table product, and from here I will take the columns product group, for example. For the customer, I will take from the table customer accounts, I will take customer ID, customer name so that I can easier recognize them, customer group, and country. And the legal entity, to have a better view, I can take the legal entity ID. So when I have finished defining my dimensions, measures, and timestamp, I click OK. Here I have a list of them. Continue. I can review it, and then it is created as, if I click again on transformation, it is created as a time series that I can execute. So if I would go again into weekly, to the transformation tab, and click on add column, I will again come to the screen and I can make adjustments. For example, for the products, I can add additionally product family because I forgot it on the first time, and continue from here. If we look at any data transformations on any series, you will always find the tab jobs, where you will see the jobs that have been run in the past and what was their status, if they are successful or not. In this case, it was successful, but let me just show you one case where the result was not completed, because we are also looking not only to have a status like finished or not, but also showcase you if there is an error that you have immediate feedback how you can continue. In this case, I was importing data from F&O environment through the different entities where the data succeeded, but I was testing here one case where the historical demand failed, and if I go to the job name, I will be able to see the error message that is leading to this failure. So I'm able to correct it and then rerun the system itself. So after we have transformed the data into time series, comes the next step where we are defining and working with forecasts. Beatrice?
So we have the data ready. Now we just have to find which is the forecast that you want to apply. Out of the box, we're going to have 3 different types of forecasts. We can have ARIMA, we can have ETS, or we can have profit. And then we have another one that is the combination of those 3. That is the best fit. That will run through those 3, and then we'll find for each dimension combination, so to the lowest level that you're forecasting, we'll find which of the top 3 is best fitting for your data. And then it will apply it. And finally, if you are using your custom HRML models, if you've invested them for the last years, you have those models that they work right away for you, then you can just keep them. They fit your business. No need to change them. You can use them in the app right away and then benefit from all the collaborative experience that we have in the demand planning app. So with this, let's go. I'll show you how to actually create a forecast on the demand planning app. Back to the app. When we want to create a new forecast, it's actually a forecast profile that we have to create. So what we do is we click new, and then let's say that we want to create 2024 forecast for profit. So in precision, again, it's whole units because we can inbox it, let's say, and it is a forecast. So we want to select what is the time bucket. So we want to forecast monthly for the whole next year, which is going to be 12 monthly bucket. We have to select that we have our demo data. Here we have the monthly historical data time shifted 12 months. So we include this as the data source. We see it under included, it's one. Also, we can view under the included tab, which is the historical data that we are including and any other that we apply. We click next. And here is where we choose which forecast option we want to have. We can select none, and then we just define it later. Profit, ARIMA, or outlier removal with ETFs. In our case, we wanted profit, so we go ahead, click next, review the latest options, and we have it here with all the details. We can again, under summary, review what we just selected as options, the horizon and time buckets, review the input data, and here under included, there's an option that we can actually filter the data. So let's say for the case that we want to have our historical demand, but maybe the year of COVID was not relevant because it was different. Or maybe we want to only select specific products or forecast for specific sites. So here we could add a start and end date for our data. And as well, we could, for example, say that we only forecast for site 13 as an example. We choose warehouse 13. And then this way, we would only not just forecast on all our data, but on part of our data. We are discarding these changes, and then we can review as well the forecast model here. The input is going to be our time series that we had, the forecast with all the forecasts. We can change it if needed to our email or ETS or best fit, as I mentioned, that we run for the three of them and find the one that fits best. If there is a seasonality, maybe it's a year that the demand is repeated upon, we can indicate it here. Any forecast will start with an input, that historical demand, and then we'll finish with a save. But other options we can add is also to handle those outliers before the forecast is run. If you have custom Asian machine learning algorithms, you can use them this custom connection. And if you already have the demand forecasting existing for finance and operations, you can add this block here, and it will bring those connections right away, including the parameters used. So this is going to be a one-time setup that you'll have to do. And from here, everything else will be in the app. So you can use that collaborative experience and still have those custom algorithms that you have invested on. When we have the forecast, we actually see that we have different jobs, and then anytime we want, we can run it so that the forecast is created. When we run it, we have the option to create a new time series when we run it and then give it a name. Or if we have already run it several times, this is our forecast profit that we run on a monthly basis, we can select to have an existing time series that may be that forecast profit, and then use the same and just look it up here. We are running for 2024, but we already have the 2023. So we select this one and then we just say that this is a new version of it. Or if we are running different tabs with different parameters, we may decide that it's just a new version and don't create another time series. And then I will not run it now. Every time we run, we will have it here with job run status, start time, end time, and time series. So to give you the example, we will just take on this one that was run for 2023. We have the different jobs, like you see, completed and when. And then you can jump directly to the result, the time series that was generated, just clicking on it. And then that time series for forecast, it will be under forecast on planning data. And then you jump to the main form where you will have that collaboration where you can see both in the graph view and in a table how that forecast actually is. So with this, we go back to the presentation to those slides.
So when we have done the forecast, then typically we want to review and adjust the forecast results. The options that we are having here are called calculations, where we can go and run things like we can add weighted values through monetary by adding cost values or sales prices to the forecast that we have generated, or for example, run a ratio and percentage where we can compare two time series to each other and see deviation from each other. And also the result of the forecast is seen as a statistical forecast, and usually in a full demand planning cycle, you would like to run kind of what if scenarios and then as an end goal, reach your consensus. So if we go to the calculations, the same as with the forecasting profiles, you will always have three parts in it. Input is where you input one or more time series that you want to use for calculations. Then the last step will always be the save, and in between you will utilize the different calculations. If you go and click on the three dots on the step for the calculation itself, then you will have a screen which consists on the upper part of the description and basic naming, which you will see in the list. And then on the lower part, we are including in the blue box the formula which is valid for this specific calculation. And below that, you will see the variables that you can select so that you can achieve this goal. In this example, this is a calculation which will offset or move on the time series time axis, the time series by 12 months, which means that we could usually use it for taking the historical demand from the past and then move it by 12 months in the future so that we can easily compare the forecasting results with the historical results so that we can have comparison between November 23 and November 22 under each other. Another example would be by using logical operator, where we could, again, in the blue box, we see the formula where we can say like everything what is above a specific threshold will be output as 1, and everything what is below will be output as 0. This can be used to utilize, to work on the outliers and continue to dig deeper into analyzing of data by finding the elements which are exceeding some operations. Another one would be arithmetic operator, where we have the basic mathematical operator like plus, minus, multiply, and divide, where we will have as an input two input time series, and we will combine them, in this case the green and the red time series, and sum it up to represent a new time series. This could be an example where we are taking our historical demand represented as the sales forecast and adding to these projects that we are planning to do in the future, which do not have a history. With that, I will hand over to Beatrice to tell you even more features that we have included for reviewing and adjusting the forecast.
So now we have that data ready. Now we just have to collaborate on it, have that information. The system does not have that knowledge that comes from your colleagues, from sales representative, product owners. So as I mentioned before, once you do the forecast, you have that data in this view that is a graph and a table. But there's even a more interesting view that is on worksheets. And I'll also show you how to get to make one of these. In this example, I had the forecast that I ran for 2023 and 2024, and I have the data of 2022 that I moved 1 year into the future, so I could compare it to the forecast. In this case, I have the forecast. I'm able to edit any value that I have of the forecast just by clicking edit, making any change, saving it. I can also change on the higher level, on aggregated level, have any sort of visibility that I want by clicking on Group By. On Group By, we have all the dimensions that you selected that you wanted to forecast on. So in our case, if the warehouse at the product variant, let's say that we don't want to have the warehouse view. We just want to have the product variant. Then we would unselect warehouse and then click Apply. The same way we could have chosen that instead of, as we had before, have the first the warehouse and then the product, we could have it the other way around. So then we could go back and just in the order. And then we would have it. We can also select that we don't want to see all the products, but we only want to see certain products. Then we can just filter by those products. We may decide that we don't want to see all dates, so we could just filter on the date as we have the example here. We may want to have different versions, different iterations. We check with the sales team, and then we make some changes. So if we have already done that review, we can go to version history, and then we can see that me, in this case, I'm Jon Snow. I have changed just some sale values, as I just did, in our current version of this forecast 2023 profit. I have changed enough values. I can save them as the new version, B1 of my forecast. Again, if I make some more changes, let's say now I go ahead and remove the warehouse. I make changes now for instead of 7,000, I change to 20,000. Now this value that I just changed is going to disaggregate proportionally across the different warehouses that we have, following the same ratio as they currently have. This way, also changing cell values and very easy to compare is that we can have, as you see here, very similar to the experience in Excel of seeing if there's increase, if there's decrease. Maybe we want to have the forecast error and see our forecast changing colors depending on how much the forecast error is. So the highest error we want to have a more detailed view on. What we can do is in add data, that is the data that will show on this page. We can see in our case how we build those red indications is in the grid formatting. We customize it, and we have the following rules that our 2023 profit forecast, we want to use the value of another time series to give it that formatting. So we are using, in this case, the forecast error. And if we have different versions, we can choose which one. So here, if the error is higher than 10, we want to have it red. If it's between 5 and 10, we want to have it yellow, and the same if it goes the other way around in negative. We can add any sorts of rules, have lots of icons, triangles, up, down, exclamation marks, checks, anything that helps you see better in the app. The same way we can have lines, so we can have columns in the app, and we can also change the colors. If we have completely different units of the forecast, one may be the price that you want to compare to the sales to see how the price affected. We can also have the specific time series that we are selected, the profit, in a secondary axis, so they show differently. And any view changes that may be specific for you, that you may like, you want to save as you're working on them, anything you can save as that specific worksheet for you. So right here, I am in the forecast and historical sales, include exceptions worksheet. But remember, I filtered on certain dates, maybe on certain products, on this view where I don't show the warehouse. So then I can select if I want to have another, or I can save as a new worksheet and give it a name. So this can be my 2023 profit, then value variant. If it is something that is not just for me as planner, but I can share with the rest of my organization, I can click add to shared worksheets, and then it will appear to the worksheets section to all my members of the organization. This way, again, if we have the same data, something important is if you have different iterations with your sales teams, you can add different versions of the same time series in that grid, in that view. So remember, I just changed to a B2, so I can add again my 2023 profit forecast and then add my B1 in this view. So the change I made, you just see it here. It is visible as well as I can compare in the graph that time series. This way, it's easier to collaborate on the form that is where you will spend the most of your time as reviewing as collaboration in the app. With this, back to the slides.
So when we have done the different review and adjustment of the forecast, which is typically done in multiple rounds by discussing it inside the company, you will reach a consensus, and then you come to the last point of the 5-step approach where you're going to export the data. Today we offer 2 possibilities to export the data. The first one is that in any time series like the one that Beatrice has shown to you, you will be able to click the button download and export the table into the CSV file. You will export aggregation level that you have selected. So if you are aggregating on customer group and product group level, then the export will be the same level. So this is exporting what you have. Another option, since we are working closely with F&O customer, is to utilize the export to F&O feature, which is done by using a new export data profile, which is created in the same way like you would do for the import data profile. So in the one step, you will create and define your data provider, the F&O environment that you want to connect. You will define the time series, the consensus time series that you want to export, and then you will define the mappings between the time series and an F&O table for the import itself. With this, we come to the topic roadmap.
Everything that we have shown you today so far is what you have on the preview build that is already available, accessible from all customers from this month already. End of October, it was available. And since this is something we have already been working on different customers, so we have tried real scenarios, real data, and it's what we will be making GA during 2024. So from this time, from now until GA, we have certain features that we're going to work on and will be available at that release. It's important to note that as a public preview, it's free to try for everyone, but at the GA time, it will come with some licensing associated that is not yet defined at this point in time. It will come as well with the GA time. The different features that are coming from today until the GA time are self-commenting on that collaboration part, being able to comment on that cell why you change the value from another one, being able to comment to your colleagues and have that traceability of comments inside the app itself, role level access. As of now, everyone has access. If you are a user, every user will have access to the whole app. But in most customers, this is not the reality, where certain people, sellers, product owners, they just have an associated portfolio they're responsible for, and they don't need to see all the rest of the data. So this way, we will create a role level access that will allow certain roles to have certain accesses to certain products or size or other that you can define. The same way, rolling forecasts, when it's a continuous process in most enterprises of forecasting, then going forward, having a process of calculations, transformations, reviews, we want to have a more automated process that will help you avoid many manual steps that you would have to do as the app is today. Explain the best fit. Best fit is going to try across ETRs, ARIMA, and Profit for each dimension combination, for each lowest level you forecast on, and will give you the data. Towards the roadmap, we want to work on how do you actually explain those results, like why, which was selected. That is something that you cannot see at the moment in the app. The same way, for new products that come, you may not have sales history. We will work on how do you transition one product to another, how do you change one color to another, one version of the product to another, this new product introduction, or end-of-life scenarios to handle them in a more helpful way in the app. And the same way, we will bring co-pilot experiences, that helper that you can chat with, that will help you see correlations in the data. You can ask more questions around why is this value so high? Can you tell me more about it? Etc. Again, this is something that we will work on for GA. And from what is today the public preview release, we will have different ones over time until the GA time. So with this, we leave you with some resources and recommendations for you to get started. Errol, go ahead.
So the first one I think it's really meant to be mentioned is the possibilities which you have already in the app itself. So if I would go again into the app, as Beatrice was mentioning, and at the beginning or during this presentation, we played you a video, which is actually this one video for import data from anywhere. We have also prepared 2 more videos, which will help you to onboard to the demand planning app. Down below, you can see the 5 steps that we are encouraging you to take so that you can make best use of the app itself. If we scroll a little bit down below, then we will have different tutorials, which are kind of a click-through tutorials for the different steps, again, related to the process itself. So if I would make an example for the import data and click on Start Tour, then the system will tell me, like, click here to create a new profile, select an FNO environment, type in the name, and so on. So it will guide me through the whole process itself. Besides that, since when we are shipping this data, we are shipping it with rich sample data that you can use out of the box so that it will be much easier for you to understand and utilize what we are doing, independent where you are in the system, being it the calculations, transformation, or forecasting profile, or any time series. You will always find examples which are prefixed with the name demo, where you can have a look how we are building and what should be the result of a specific element. I mentioned before that about different calculations. So if you would go to any of this one, you can see how are we calculating and what are the elements, for example, to calculate a forecast error in the system itself. Coming back to the home page related to the sample data, if we scroll below the tutorial section, we will have 2 buttons where we can reset the environment, which will reset it to the state where we will only have the sample data, or if we want to start completely fresh, then we can delete all the data and then have totally empty system. My suggestion here is that you, until it is a production environment, production place, that you always reset with the sample data, because as mentioned before, everything is prefixed with the demo, and it is much easier for you to go to the calculations, for example, and create your own, because they will be having a different name, and you will always can have a cheat sheet, so to say, to look what is done or what should be set up when we talk about specific topics in the system. Going further, we have also created a rich documentation about this one on the Learn page. So inside Dynamics 365 for supply chain, there is already a section called Demand Planning, and underneath you will find all the different topics. And again, here summarized into 5 steps, starting by import data, transforming data, forecasting, calculation, and exporting data. And besides that, you will also find a step-by-step description how you can install and enable the demand planning app, as well as explanation of the time series screen itself with the different elements in it. Then, since it is a public preview, we are looking to understand what are your needs, what you want to achieve with this app. So therefore, we are asking you and encouraging you to fill in this customer sign-up form, which is on AKMS Demand Planning app, with just simple questions so that we can get a better view what are your goals and what you want to achieve with it. But if you continue and install and try using the app and you encounter any topics or you have any further question, then feel free to join the Yammer group created about called Demand Planning Application, where with different other Yammer groups, engineering team, and other support team from Microsoft will be able to help you. And of course, the community itself will already maybe have a solution for the questions that you are having. Since this is a relatively new feature, like 1 week old, we are also planning to have an on-site workshop in Copenhagen, Denmark on the 4th and 5th December. There are still places to register to take if you want to take part. What we are going to do on this is having even deeper dive on the application as it is, and then talk to you about roadmap and features and discuss with you where the product is going on. And if you want to have a broader picture about where does demand planning fit into whole planning cycle and what are the responses from our customers who are already using this one, then please check these 2 blog posts. With that, we are reaching the Q&A section.
We have 2 minutes left as my colleagues Abhishek and Mustafa have been answering all of your questions so far. Is there any or 2 questions, Abhishek, that you've seen important or repeated that you would like to comment on?
I think we have answered pretty much all the questions we have had. A general note is I saw a lot of questions around the possibility of adjusting and editing the forecast. So essentially, one of the key capabilities of the demand planning app is the ability to collaborate, and there are multiple ways to collaborate. There is a possible, we have linked team chats where planners can collaborate with their colleagues, as well as we would be bringing soon the capability to add comments to each and every cell so that planners can annotate any manual adjustments or changes that they're making. And once the plan is finalized and authorized, then it can be brought back to the 365 SCM to be able to use in planning optimization.
Thank you, Abhishek. So now we are at time. Thank you, everyone, for joining, for staying with our Tech Talk today.